won't have any pro sports this year. Will be the NYCB Live at
home of the Nassau
Coliseum. Yeah, will not be having. They won't be having. You know, when they did that deal, when it came down to the people with the Garden to renovate the Nassau Coliseum and the Nassau Events, I guess it's called, or something like that.
Well, it was Jay-Z.
It was Bruce Ratner, you know, and they chose the Ratner deal because he said, "Oh, we'll play Islander games here." I think it was supposed to be 2 and 4, it would be 6 altogether, or whatever it was.
2 preseason, 5 regular season.
And now it comes out there's not going to be any Islander games at the Coliseum.
Okay.
And the Nassau Events is now owned by Prokhorov, who's Russian.
But wait, do you think that changed when Wang sold?
Well, that's what the new owner Ledecky came in. So Wang sold 85% of the team. He's not the minority owner. No pun intended. But he sold the 85% of the team, and Ledecky and what's the other guy's name?
Malkin.
Malkin, yeah. And Ledecky was quoted the other day saying that was a deal that was done between Nassau County and Wang. We don't have to honor it.
But when you buy a team,
how could any contract be? You know, okay. So if a deal is made. And then a contract is written, and then all of a sudden it gets bought by someone else, you don't honor that contract? That defies logic.
Okay, same logic. What happens if you buy a car, and then your salesman quits?
Right, right.
Do you not have to?
No, my lease. Sorry, the salesman quit. Don't you know? Yeah, I don't want to be there. I'm not going to
gone. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. I saw that and I said, "Holy cow!" And one of the that's a dial.
Well, thank you, Phil Rizzuto.
One of the Phil Rizzuto right now. One of the apparently the Nassau County would get $1.5 million. And it was and Ledecky's basically saying, I negotiated with Mangano. Do you see that guy over there? Mangano. He's just trying to say his name off and it's like, oh, okay, it's got to be a crooked bad deal. Oh, yes, he's indicted. Yes.
But isn't it that when you buy something, you take all assets
and
liabilities?
Do. All assets and liabilities. You can do a deal in business where you don't assume the liabilities. That's not what this was done. This deal was all lock, stock, and barrel, 85% of the everything, asset and liabilities. Right, exactly. No, this is an opportunistic move on the part of Ledecky and Malkin to be like, hey, what's happening over there in Nassau County is, it's rotten to the core, so we're not going to be part of that. It was some under-the-table deal.
And they've been really hush-hush about what's happening next.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they have this deal where they want out of Barclays. So why is somebody calling if we're going to give the dial to? Anyway, so they had this deal, and so now no games of the Islanders will be played at the Coliseum. So basically, this Coliseum is just going to be for concerts
and the Long Island Nets.
Yeah,
but wait, isn't it crazy that they're going to build another arena for the Islanders? Whether it be at Belmont, or on what used to be Shea Stadium, I think.
Right. Well,
that makes no sense to me.
But what happens is when you're oversaturated market, one eventually closes.
Yeah. Well, they have this RFP, the request for proposals, to the state of New York for the Belmont land. Who's going to develop that? That's what everyone is fighting for. That's the jewel that they're all fighting for, right?
Third time's the charm.
Hello, caller on Sports Talk.
Hey, it's Dan from Bethpage.
Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
Yeah, all right. You chiming in on something?
Yeah, I was just listening to you about the new Nassau Coliseum.
Yes. You mean NYCB Live?
Yeah, the piece of tin, I guess. I don't know.
Yes. Looks like a tuna can.
I thought Dolan should have gotten that bid. I think Dolan would have did a better job.
It is the only time in my life I've ever rooted for the Dolans. The only time. Because they would have done, and they had the wherewithal to bring the Rangers farm team, at least the Wolfpack, right? They would have brought them to play there. Would have been
But also, they're also trying to. I think they're going to try to kick out the Rangers and the Knicks in the next couple of years because I think they want to build the transit over there.
Yeah, well, the Madison Square Garden is scheduled. They're supposed to lose that because they don't pay any taxes to the city of New York, so they're supposed to lose it like in the next 5-10 years. But they made friends with Cuomo though.
Why would they pay taxes on it to the city if it's federal property?
Well, just anything that they have within the confines of the city of New York, just like the stadiums of Yankee and Citi Field.
But then you're saying, sometimes if you have federal property,
well, it's not federal property.
Penn Station is definitely federal property.
No, Amtrak operates it, but
they own the station too.
But the garden itself is city owned.
They were supposed to get a new arena across the street or something.
Right.
They screwed that up,
and that's going to be Moynihan Station or whatever the heck that's going to be.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter was that the city council had said that the garden, you guys are out. And then all of a sudden the Dolans became friends with Cuomo. When I went to the Billy Joel press conference when they were announcing the residency there was Jim Dolan sitting right next to Andy Cuomo, right there. So they knew what they. And then what the Dolans did was they put up $1 billion in some crazy number in renovations and said, "Oh, you can't kick us out. Look what we just did. We just created the Chase Bridge and all that stuff." So it's never a good thing when publicly owned sports arenas. I always say whenever they sell naming rights to a stadium that it should be called Taxpayer Stadium. I mean, that's because that's truth in advertising, right?
People make so much money. Should municipalities be in the business of sponsoring sports stadiums?
No, of course not. And especially, I've always said, look, we're not a city. And it was proven by Long Island because all of a sudden we got by the Islanders, we got a small town mentality. Like, oh my goodness, Long Island, all we have is Buttafuoco's. We need to keep our Islanders.
But
no, we don't. We're New
is,
York.
Long Island really could support 3 teams. They could, support a football team, a hockey team, and maybe a basketball team. But I think it's more.
But it's the same thing.
A hockey and a football.
It's the same thing that happens with our kids. Our kids go to college. They don't come home. Because we're close to the city. They go and live in the city for a couple of years. Yeah. Then they get married. They move to Jersey or wherever they go. That's what happens.
I definitely think Long Island could support the Jets. To be honest with you, have a football team here. I really think they could support a team here. On Long
that was
Island,
Sheldon Silver's fault.
Team.
They would have been in New York.
Yeah, they would have been. Well, that was the Dolans fought that too.
No, but then we were in cahoots with Sheldon Silver.
Well, if the problem with Long Island having, you look at Giant Stadium, I guess what do you call it now? What's the stadium? MetLife, right? Yeah, the corporate sponsor name, which they only got a sponsor for when they got the Super Bowl. That was the only way they got a name for that. That's centrally located, quote unquote, because you can get there from other places. Long Island, it's all NIMBY, right? The land of no. They'll never build a tunnel or a bridge to Connecticut or Westchester, right?
It's
never going to happen.
In late 80s, like 88, 89, they were thinking about bringing the Yankees to Roosevelt Raceway, and then the Yankees said, forget it. And then the Jets were thinking about moving to. Well,
there was in New Jersey when you would come down the escalator at Giant Stadium, you look over and there was this empty, which is now Xanadu, but a waste of money and time. But you look over and there's all this land, and it was what they always said. It's where the Yankees were to go. And then one time George Steinbrenner said, "You know what? If you give me was it 3 million or 4 million? If you give me 4 million fans." I'll stay in the Bronx. Well, what happened? 1996 happened. That's what happened. Well, all of a sudden, the core 4, and they got 4 million fans in 96, in 97, in 98, and he's like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, Giuliani's mayor, and he's the Yankee mascot, and he's like, hey, everybody. And he goes and he gives a blank check to the Yankees. Oh, while he's at it, he gives a blank check to the Mets. Build some new stadiums.
And minor league, too.
And then 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, you signed a contract, City of New York. You've got to go build these stadiums. And that's what happened.
But the New York Football Giants were negotiating with New Jersey. I read in online since 1970. They were discussing moving to Jersey in 1970.
MetLife never needed to be built. Giant Stadium was perfectly good. It was. It only had the only problem was it was called Giant Stadium. So for the Jets, it didn't make any sense.
It was the Meadowlands. It was
a great. It did not need to be knocked down, let alone replaced. It was a more than what they have now. MetLife is worse than what they had.
It's a big nothing.
Yeah, and it's a compromise. They always say what happens they always say that a camel is what would have happened if a committee had to design a horse because everyone's got to compromise and agree on stuff. So they put people in a room. Oh, let's give it some humps. Okay, let's give it this. Designing a horse. That's what it is. It's a compromise. They gave a 50-50 decision. So the Giants are like, we want traditional, old-fashioned. The Giants are like, we want state-of-the-art, old, like spaceship, whatever. And you got nothing. You got, hey, when the Jets play, it'll be green. When the Giants play, it'll be blue. And when Syracuse plays, it'll be orange. It's like, great, terrific.
I tell you, what do you think about the Raiders move to Vegas? Because I think in a couple more years, they could be a real crappy team, to be honest with you. Right now, they're
or a crapsy team. They're in Vegas.
Forget. In 3 more years, they could be garbage when they're moving to Las Vegas.
The Raiders
they're a good team.
The Raiders have had a history and a tradition of moving cities. Oakland, L.A., Oakland.
But this is a major move because they're moving out of state. They're moving from California to Nevada.
Yeah, it's just
the other ones were just different cities in California.
Steve probably has been. Has anyone? Dan, I don't know if you've been. Steve, have you been to Vegas? Have you been to Vegas, Mark?
No, I've never been.
I haven't been to Vegas in 30 years.
Yeah, I mean it's. I figured you'd go see some random team. The Las Vegas Cactuses, Cacti.
I've only been west of the Mississippi 3 times.
He would have went to Vegas if the nice bus route was going to get cut there.
He would have walked.
No.
Is that the N75?
He would have rode that bus to save the route.
That's true. No, before last year, the first time I've been west of Mississippi was over 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So, I was technically in St. Louis.
But I mean, I don't know if Vegas can even support a pro team. You know, they're going to have a hockey team first. They're putting a hockey team there next season.
I think the next team is going to be pro basketball. Next is going to be coming back.
They had the All-Star game.
They had the All-Star game. Yeah,
they're going to promote. They're promoting Vegas right now. And I think another
Vegas would be great for an NBA team just because NBA players like Vegas. But
That team would have to be a great team, though. It can't be
that's right.
A bad team in Vegas.
It's going to have to change, big word here, the paradigm, because if you go to Vegas, they want you, and they give you free food, they give you free lodging because they want you spending your money in the casinos. They're not going to send you to, hey, take your voucher and go to the Raiders game. They're not going to do that. They want you sending your do-re-mi. You're spending your do-re-mi right there on the craps tables and the blackjack tables and the one-armed bandits and all that stuff. That's what they want. They don't want you going and spending your money over at, and I think the Vegas. They haven't built it yet, or it's going to be a small stadium or something like that. They're going to play in first or something. They're playing.
Sam Boyd probably.
They're moving in 2 more years,
which is UNLV, right?
In 2019, they're moving to Vegas, and then 2020.
But this year, the Chargers are playing in like a 30,000 seat stadium this year. So
the soccer stadium with the Rams then.
Right.
MLS team? That's what's saying.
Yeah, they're going to play in.
I don't understand.
Yeah, they're going to play in like a 40,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
Why have we moved away in America? And this is just America as a whole from like suburban stadiums, like not suburban.
Except for
stadiums,
Atlanta,
not suburban stadiums, but like stadiums that have parking with it.
Atlanta just did something funny. They built in. I want to say Cobb County. They just built all the stuff,
County,
but they just petitioned to have it given. It was given an Atlanta zip code. So it'd be like Uniondale all of a sudden becoming New York, just so they could say there's a stadium
in Atlanta suburb.
Technically, it's not even Uniondale because Mitchell Field used to be in Garden City.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, because Roosevelt took off from Garden City.
Yeah,
right.
What do you think about the Mets mascot giving the finger? I think it's really.
Well, technically, he only has 4 fingers, so he's really not giving the middle finger. Because when you have 4, there is no middle.
And he didn't get fired.
No, at least they reassigned him. Well, here's why they should have. Now, I know that when my dad turned 75, so that would have been 2007. I booked Mr. Met. And it was mid-season, so I had to pay top dollar. If it's off season, you pay less money. But it was mid-season, so
what's top dollar?
I think it was like $1,500.
But how would they know?
Really? But if my wife's listening, it was $200, honey. And I shared it with my brother. He paid half seas. But so the guy gets out of the guy gets Mr. Met, and now Mr. Met gets out of the car that's taking him, and the first thing he says, and it was a day. I remember this would have been July of 2007. It was the day, and you can look it up what day it was. The Yankees were kicking the tar out of whoever they were playing. They had it was like 17-2 or something. And all of a sudden, Mr. Met gets out of the car, and the first thing he says, "Yanks are up 17-2. All right." I'm like, I just spent $1,500 for you big-headed freak. I never want to hear a Yankee score from you as long as I live, you big-headed freak. So,
otherwise, he didn't give you the finger.
So to me, Mr. Met giving the finger is not the worst thing he could do. Telling me that score was him giving me the finger.
Go right to the AP now.
You know what? The check was made, and I tipped that big-headed freak afterwards
and the check was
too.
out to Mr.
No,
he's got 2 handlers, and I was giving out cash and tips left and right.
No.
And
wow.
Son of a gun, yeah. It was
the check.
And then there was one of the girls she used to work for Newsday, Katrina Doell. She was a sports writer. She was good friends with my brother. She was at the bar down there, and she goes to me, there's actually 4 Mr. Mets. Blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care. Stop killing the illusion. It's like, I don't want to know how many Mr. Mets there are. Number one, this guy just told me that the Yankee score. You're telling me there's 4 Mr. Mets. Next thing you know, you're telling me that Mommy's not hurting the daddy. It's like, I don't want to know these
your
things.
Check never went to the Mets. It went to the Madoff.
Exactly. My check went to the Make it out to Bernie Madoff. What?
Next thing, Chris just found out was Santa Claus isn't real. There's no Easter bunny.
Santa Claus comes out telling me, there's no Easter bunny. Walk away! 2 birds, 1 stone. Pow, pow. Oh, God. Yeah, so in other words, so him giving the finger isn't the worst thing Mr. Met can do. But I'm glad that they've reassigned him with a new organization. You know,
they reassigned him to the Yankee farm team.
But it's very funny because what happens today